So go ahead, if you haven't already, pull out the piece called Scenes from In the Steppes of Central Asia. Okay, in the meantime, so raise your hand if you've heard of Alexander Borden. We should all have, because we all took Dr. Smith's history class. So, to give you guys a refresher, he is Russian. He's one of the Mighty Five. Can someone tell me what the Mighty Five was?
Was 5 Russian composers that are all like the greats.
Yeah, the great 5 Russian composers, that's right. His original occupation was a chemist. Music was actually just something he did for fun. So it's pretty impressive that he can write operas and these beautiful programmatic works. He was not formally trained in music, and he just composed in his free time. So can someone tell me another fact about the Mighty Five? Like, what did they stand for? Why were they a group? Yes?
They wanted like Russian music.
Yeah, they wanted to make kind of a name for Russian music. They were wanting to do something other than the German tradition, so they decided to kind of stray away from the academic tradition and do stuff with a fresh approach using the Western style. Good. So now raise your hand, someone tell me what a symphonic poem is. Anybody? Yes.
It's programmatic that tells a story.
Yes, it's a programmatic piece of music that tells a story, that's right. Okay? Okay, so a symphonic poem, it was actually a term coined by Liszt, and it's a one-movement programmatic work, and it has a theme that's repeated and transformed to tell a story of some kind. So the content is usually suggested by a picture, a play, and it's identified in the title. So the title, In the Steppes of Central Asia, it paints a picture for you already in your head, right? Before even knowing what it sounds like. To give you an idea, this piece is alluding to about this area, like this. In the mid-1800s, Russia was invading about this area of Central Asia. Okay, now take a moment, close your eyes, and look at this image. Can everybody see it? Okay, now with this image in your head, close your eyes. You're in Central Asia in the mid to late 19th century. You know that the Russians have been expanding south into your land, transforming it for agricultural use. For about 7 years, the people in Central Asia could do little to resist the Russian advance. Eventually, Russian interference has become minimal, leaving native ways of life intact and local government procedures in place. However, so much land has been given to Russian farmers, and they come in large numbers. All right, open your eyes. And I'm going to leave this up here these are the actual program notes from Symphony in the Silicon Valley that they used. But first, let's go ahead and read the piece. Let's get an idea of what we're working with here. While you read, listen for the programmatic materials, and vocalists will get to why you don't have many lyrics in a while. Okay? Actually, real quick, who's playing the first clarinet? Or who wants to play the solo? Can you play the solo real quickly for us? Mm-hmm. Just right on this second measure.
Sorry.
It's okay.
What am I reading?
Yes.
I thought it was here.
Okay. Ready? It's a little bit faster than that.
Right.
if you can't hear that at any given time, you're too loud. All right, with that in mind, let's read. Everybody? Okay, let's have everybody start. It's okay. So it's just you and John right now, just so you know. Ready? Does everybody see E, rehearsal letter E in their part? Let's go ahead and start there. E. So just so you know, the horn and trumpet have your starting pitch. Okay? E. Not bad for a first read. Not bad. Okay. Let's see. So go ahead and turn and talk to your neighbors. Each rehearsal letter is a different section of the story that we're trying to tell in this programmatic piece. So let me turn this. You'll see that there's different sections. And go ahead, turn and talk with your neighbor and decide which goes in what rehearsal letter. Does that make sense? Go. The second one, Russia allows Central Asia ways of life to be intact while they are there.
And also the one under Oriental theme.
Russia is given a vast amount of farmland.
First one is the Oriental.
Yeah, because, yeah, that makes sense. Like, the Oriental theme is Russia invades.
This group of here.
The Oriental theme is
We don't know that it
B is maybe 12.
Oh, yeah, so like, so yeah,
Russia allows Central
they're not there. They're not there yet.
Yeah, that's what they're allowing their way of life to do.
While they're there.
While they're there.
Oh, it's the Russians. I don't see that one. It's the Russians. That was mine. It's not mine because it is.
Oh, you have to back it up. I'm saying, so it's all Oriental theme. Russia invades.
Wait,
There's 3 Russian
So now we have Russia.
Well, it makes more sense to me to start off with the Oriental. And then Russia advances.
That's the Orient.
It's first showing like Central Asia, and then Russians come into the picture.
But I agree.
All right, real quickly, give me a show of like thumbs up if you've put everything in order. Okay, I'll give you like 30 more seconds. Let's go.
D is a Russian.
D would be in
D is a Russian advance.
Maybe I had missed like the story.
That might be.
Oh, you're right. The first one was the Russian. The
second one.
next time.
Allows.
I think they're giving them the best amount of farmland. Because they open it all swamp land.
I'm talking about C.
You know, I'm talking because Russia invades the East.
All right, let's reconvene. So, do I have a volunteer to tell me what they think the order is of the piece of the story? Yes.
So we think A is either Russian theme or the farmland one, and then F is either Russian theme or the farmland one. So those two are kind of, we're not sure about those two, but E we think is the Russian advance. C is Oriental theme. D is Russian advance. E is also Russian advance. F is, like I said, Russian theme or farmland. And then G is the allows ways of life to be invented.
Yeah, okay, let's hold on to that. Does anybody else have a different opinion? No? Oh, yes.
Keith and I kind of had a little bit of a disagreement on whether A was the Russian or Oriental theme. I think it's the Oriental theme, and then B, Russian advance. And then I said that I think C is the Russian theme, D, Russian advance. E, I think, is the farmland. F, I think, is they allow things to stay intact, and then G is the advancing one.
Okay, so it seems like as a group that we're having a disagreement whether A is the Russian or Oriental theme. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Yes? Okay, so Krista, do you want to tell us why you think it's the Russian?
Well, I just.
You can phone a friend. Who else thinks that it's the Russian theme at A?
Does the oboe have the, whatever the theme is at C? Is that you?
Yeah.
I think because the oboe is more pastoral, and they were trying to like, almost like put down the Central Asians, maybe the connotation of that makes it, it's a little bit less of a civilized melody.
No, you're getting on the right track. High five from over here. Yes, the theme at C is the Oriental theme because the oboe is viewed as a more pastoral instrument timbre. So can, Becky, can you put them in order, please? Just go ahead and move them. Okay, everybody, let's remind her how it goes. So what's A? Russian theme, yeah. Sorry, and what's B? Russian advance. Why do we think it's the Russian advance? What did we hear in the music? Scary, darkness, dissonance, I like those words. What rhythmic theme, or what rhythmic element did we hear in it?
A lot of quarter notes, kind of like
Quarter
marching.
notes, upbeats, exactly. Okay, so what's C? Oriental. Thank you, Becky. And what is D? Russian advance, for the same reason, right? Yeah. And what is rehearsal E?
Farmland? Oh,
This is another disagreement that we had. So, you can sit down. fine, Becky. Let's go ahead. Thank you. Let's go ahead and play it E to the end and figure out. Let's listen to see what we think it is with the last ones that we have. So E. Thank you. Okay, so now that we reminded ourselves of how it goes, so E, do you think it is the Russian or the Central Asian ways of life stays intact while they are there, or the Russians are given a vast amount of farmland? Think back to when you closed your eyes and I gave you a little bit of programmatic information. That can be it. Turn to talk to your neighbor and discuss what you think it is.
I think F is still like, hey, we promise not to.
John's there.
So I'll talk with Joe.
Yes.
Okay, then I did wish
All right. Can someone tell me what they think E is? Yes, Frank.
The farmland, right? That's what I think. And then the F is the wave life.
All right, why do you think that? What do you think it is?
Because in F there's this strong brass, constant, like dark sound underneath the pretty singing, so it's kind of like the Russians are there, but they're still living.
Yeah. So you said that at E, is that right? Or
I said it F.
at
but
F? Okay.
might be.
Okay, anybody else have a different opinion? Yes.
Well, it's sort of building up to that. F has the same notes as the same melody as the solo, and the solo is a Russian theme. So I'm assuming that F invokes the Russian life.
Yeah. You guys are right. Nice. Okay, so I'm gonna go to another. And do we all agree that G is another Russian advanced section?
Yeah.
Why? What in the music tells you that?
It's the more marching sound kind of stuff.
Yeah, the marching, the quarter notes, the upbeats. Good. Awesome, you guys. Okay, so now vocalists, go ahead and get in a group and go ahead and create lyrics for those sections that you have blank. They're given a start, but Ralph, do you mind playing the solo one more time so you can have it in your head? So you're going to create words to that. The other theme is in the oboe. Do you need to hear that as well? Yes? Do you mind playing that, Krista, at C? Beautiful. So go ahead and create lyrics that go along with the storyline. Okay? All right, now instrumentalists. Let's go to the Russian advanced sections. So let's go to B. Anybody who has quarter notes, raise your hand. Yes? Okay, you're going to pat on your legs. Okay? Anybody who has upbeats, raise your hand. Go ahead and snap. All right? Everybody get what we're doing? Okay. C. I'm sorry, B. Ready? Alright, do it again. And do you notice something in your part? Something that looks like this? Yes? Go ahead and share that in your body percussion. Here, let's get a better start. Good. Okay, now play it. Now we're playing, right? Alright, let's get a little bit more of the crescendo, okay? Because we want it spooky, right? They're sneaking up in Russia, right? Or in Central Asia. Good, good. Now, vocalists, how are you doing? Thumbs up? Not yet? Okay, questions?
What articulation do you want for the quarter notes on the D?
Just go ahead and D, 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 D. Thank you, John, for asking. All right, let's go to D. We have the same thing, right? Okay, the same rhythm. D, instrumentals. Yeah, thank you for being patient. Good, good. With the upbeats, woodwinds, go ahead and use like a stop tone to get it out really crisp and clear. Okay. So let's see how we're doing. What do you have so far? Nothing?
No, we do.
No? That's good. What do we have? Let's hear it.
Should I sing it? or-
Yes.
On the steps I see Russians that are going to fight.
Yeah, I like it. Cool.
I was hoping there would be I Can See Russia from my
What
house.
about, so that's looking at A, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so do you have something for C yet? No? Okay. Do you have anything for, let's see, where's the next section? E? That's all right.
Check it in a second.
So go ahead and repeat that theme every time you have that
Okay.
Russian folk song theme. But everybody, let's go ahead and play what we have so far. Remember the programmatic materials that we've talked about and try to portray them in your playing. Right? Everybody? Beginning? Thanks, guys.
feedback, 2 minutes feedback, Yeah. 5 minutes feedback, take as much time as we
I
need.
thought this was a really, really fantastic approach to teach a song and make it memorable, because I will definitely remember bits and pieces of what you taught because of how you taught it. You know? I would be careful of when we start out at the very beginning, making sure that we have some air through our horns to begin with, because we didn't have any start or warm up or tuning, so kind of had a rough start at the beginning, but that was really good.
Going off of that, I would just like use your ears because we had a lot of tuning issues, so maybe even just letting us tune really quick would have been good. But I really loved your sequencing and everything. Your lesson was super engaging and fun. I didn't even notice that like 25 minutes went by.
Yes, I agree with what everyone else said. I thought it was a great lesson. The range was great. I would want to say something about dynamics though, because for the horn part, we only have 24 measures out of the 67 that are even louder than piano. And maybe consider taking your dynamic range. You kind of have to go like below piano and above forte, and maybe just bringing it in a little bit and just stay within like piano, mezzo, forte, and forte. And I think that would have helped with the dynamic contrast that you were looking for.
I really loved that you had us all kind of give our input on which order you wanted. And I liked that when there were conflicting views, instead of just saying, well, you had people like defend why they thought what they thought, rather than just going, well, that's wrong. No, who else thinks something different? So that was really good.
I like the historical context and background that you brought into it. The only other things, when you were giving us hints when it came to like Russian theme versus Oriental theme, you asked us to remember something back from like 10, 12 minutes prior to the lesson when we had already done a whole bunch of things. That becomes a little difficult. Maybe if we like knew some more musical context, like for example, from where I'm sitting, I actually did not hear that there's an oboe solo at letter C. So that might have helped form a better decision for that kind of thing. Other things, whenever you had the vocalists go into a group and discuss, it got very noisy and a little chatty, and it became difficult for members of the ensemble to actually hear instruction, as well as you gave us a lot of downtime, which we could have misbehaved.
No, you guys?
Oh.
Yes.
I liked, there was one moment when we were doing this, and it was when we got to E, and we weren't sure what it was gonna be. Instead of just giving us the answer, you had, okay, let's play and think about this time, which is a really nice sequencing idea. Kind of what just Josh said. I also couldn't hear the oboe, and I was trying to sing that part, and so maybe just check some balance stuff. If you're not hearing what you want to, don't be afraid to be like, can you hear the oboe? Because that is the melody at that time. So you can make it stop and make it what you want it to be.
Thanks. Yes.
I do agree with Josh that it was a little noisy in the room when they were doing that, but I think like in reality, you would probably not have them do that right there. I really like that you had them do something to keep them engaged while we were doing marching music.
Yes.
Another small thing, when you had Krista give her opinion of where the things should go, I had wished that they'd actually been moved so then we could see what Krista said, because I couldn't remember it all, and then you could have been like, okay, someone else, which ones would you move? And take that approach for like the visual learners. I think that would have been helpful, but again.
Yes.
I really like that this was a clearly student-focused and student-driven lesson.
Alrighty then. Allie, you did a lot of things really well today. I agree with a lot of what your colleagues said. A couple of things I want you to think about regarding the historical, the cultural, and the musical elements of your lesson. Remember, we don't want to lose sight of the music. I mean, all that other stuff is super duper important. The history, the culture. You know I value that tremendously. But you don't want to lose sight of the music. And the reason I say that was I agree with, I think it was Becky who talked about when you were trying to gain clarity on what was happening at letter E and you had them play again. And I thought that was very beneficial. However, every time they play, don't forget you need to give them some feedback about the quality of their performance. So we're trying to make sure that they're listening and they're performing and you're attending to all of that is multidimensional as well, okay? So even though it's serving a specific function, we still want to improve their musical performances because that's our big job, right? So it's just having to juggle all those balls in the air at once. And then your language. I didn't know, did you take Oriental theme from something that you saw written somewhere? Does someone classify it as Oriental?
I remember actually in Dr. Smith's class, we classified that. It was just so I could have it on a smaller piece of card. Or
Okay.
Smaller card.
I just wondered, I mean, again, just being very in tune with the cultural literature, because we said Russian theme and Russian advance, and typically we would say Asian theme. I mean, even the title of the piece is Steps of Asia. So just think about your language and how that could impact cultural perceptions.
You guys, I want to challenge everyone to think about this. There's a thing called priming of the brain, okay? It's just like priming a wall, right? Before you paint. What does the primer do before you paint?
Helps it stick.
What?
Helps it stick.
Helps it stick? Anything else? Okay. It helps it stick. It makes it smoother a little bit, okay? So when you're priming the brain, a lot of times Allie knows this piece. She studied this piece. For us, even the Russian 5, bringing that in, we were like, yeah, I know about that. Yeah, okay, yeah. So if you can help us in priming of the brain, if you can help us with pictures, with sounds, with this, with that, okay, it will also help embed, just like the primer on the wall helps things stick, okay? And I know that's a pretty broad statement, but be thinking about that, because you don't know what your kids are going to come to you with, right? And even though we're really talented musicians and musical historians and all of that stuff, it might also help. I also want to challenge all of you, going off Allie's lesson. You know, with early childhood, we always talk about the tension and release. So it's a focused activity, then you play, then you focus, then you play, then you focus, then you play. Or there is focus in the playing, right? So I wonder if in this lesson, when you're watching the video, if you can think about, if you talk for 2 minutes, play for 3 or 4. You know what I mean? Like, try to figure out a way to do that, because it's not an all or nothing. You're going to learn everything about this piece ever, and I'm not saying that that's what you did, was this or that. See how you can integrate the musicking even more. And that goes for everybody. Integrating the musicking. It's my next article. Help me remember that.
I will.
Okay.
It's on a sticky.
Yeah.